I like your persona better than you, Bernard.
right? And then they
Yeah.
say live from New York.
None of us are in New York.
None of us are in New York, though. That's the problem. What's up, profitable stylists? Good morning. Last week we had some technical difficulties. We were able to get Jay back from John Renault. Good morning, Jay. Thank you for being with us.
Looks like he's in New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah.
No, I'm not in New York.
He's enjoying the nightlife wherever he is, right?
Red Purple life. Purple nightlife. Guys, what hair show will you be going to this year? We're going to talk a little bit about hair shows and how hair replacement fits in or doesn't fit in or should fit in the hair shows. Eddie and I are both going to be in Chicago and Pennsylvania. I'm looking at the dates on my notes over here. Chicago, ABS, America's Beauty Show. We're going to be there April 15, 16, and 17. It's one of those 3-day shows, so you know it's one of the bigger, better ones. And then Pennsylvania is April 24th and 25th. It's a Monday, Tuesday show. We'll be at both of those, mostly talking about this extension product right here, but we just love the hair business in general. And something I did on a live recently was I'll do a live drive where I talk in my car on Facebook. Sometimes I'm doing YouTube now too, doing the shorts. But I was trying to get some help at this hair show and just seeing if some stylists wanted to come join us, because I know in the years back when we did a lot of shows, we just have stylists random from all over the country that bought our product show up and help us. And it was a lot of fun. And then they'd get excited and then eventually maybe do good enough to get paid to go, or we'd cover their expenses. But at first you just show up. So then some people asked me, is there a show in Dallas? Is there a show in Houston? And then I realized I'm not the know-it-all of hair shows. So I thought, let me ask you guys, where are the shows? And then we started talking about our favorite shows. And I'd love to start with Eddie, because his show was a lot of fun. Tell me about that. You said in the years past, it was Chicago, but it was at night, right? And what was it called?
Yeah, it was called the Alternative Hair Show. I wonder if anybody remembers the Alternative Hair Show.
I never heard of it.
So,
You say?
Oh, I've never heard of it.
You never heard of that one?
I just remember the Midwestern show in Chicago. That's it.
So that's what it was back then. Before it was
connected
called
to it.
America's Beauty Show, it was Midwest Show, and you would go to the Midwest Show during the daytime, and then at nighttime they would leave the convention center altogether, and they would literally go to the Rosemont Theater. It was a huge theater where they have
More
operas and plays.
presentation than a hair show
Say again?
atmosphere. It's more like a presentation, like intercoiffure or behind the chair where there's a stage, and
It was a huge stage. You like literally like opera and musicals. They would perform in this theater. So you'd have like 500 to 1,000 seating. You'd have the lower balcony, the upper balcony, the center stage, left stage, front stage. It was
What
amazing.
did they do that you like so much?
So you'd get all dressed up. It was a whole to do, and you would go sit down. When the show started, it was a 3-hour presentation that went by in what felt like 20 minutes. It
Yeah,
was
'cause you loved it.
insane. So everything was live. Nothing was pre-recorded. Nothing was pre-video footage. Nothing. There was no, screens like that back then, or video playback like that back then. So it was everything was live. Some of it was pre-done models that they were just making them walk through across the stage, and they'd put on some kind of a performance and something. Some of it was they would bring the model out and there was no stools to sit. They would just stand there, and the stylist would come over and do their hair and fix up their hair, or pin up the last section, or do a haircut, or do, the last bit of coloring application, something. The whole presentation of the show was so energetic, between the music, the dancers, the choreography, the fashion, the doing of hair, and it was called the Alternative Hair Show because it was to show you what the future of hair is going to look like and what it can look like. It was the most inspiring, energetic, mind-blowing experience you can ever discover. To sit in a room of 500 to 1,000 squirrels. Us hairdressers, we don't.
Squirrels.
I mean, no, yeah, right. We all get distracted, and we're all like, our brain is in 20,000 directions. Everybody's sitting on the edge of their seat, just staring like a little kid watching a cartoon. We're just staring, watching, and just mind blown of what we're
The
seeing.
only thing you didn't mention that I love about those kind of situations is the hairspray. because when the lights, you see the fog, kind of like behind Jay. You always see the fog, and they do a little. They go a little overboard with it just for presentation. But I love watching hairspray spray on stage with lights because it looks kind of like a fog machine. You know,
it was awesome. It was truly inspiring. And then after the show would be done, you would get to go up. You'd go into the gala, into the lobby area, whatever that was called. It'd be a whole meet and greet. You would meet other stylists from all over the world. People would come from all over the world to this show. And you'd meet other stylists. You get to meet the presenters. They would line up all the models. So you get to go up close and pick through their hair and kind of see, you know, the positioning, the placement, the patterns, the style. You would want to go back to the salon immediately and just start doing hair, you know, and it's like 3 o'clock in the morning by now, but you're still like, you feel like it's 9 o'clock in the morning. You're just ready to start working. It was just
energy,
phenomenal.
excitement, and creativity reminds me of something Jay and I have been talking about lately, how that fits in or doesn't fit in hair replacement shows. You want to kind of take that for a minute and talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we were talking about with Bernard it actually was early this morning.
That's right.
Yeah, we were talking about the fact that a lot of in the hair replacement industry for years they didn't feel that there was enough creativity in hair replacement to make, you know, to attract a hair replacement, you know, somebody to hair replacement.
Stylist.
But what they didn't realize was it's probably just as creative and
Or
maybe
more.
even more creative. And a lot of it was due to the fact that hair replacement for many, many years was only thought of Hair Club for Men, and everything in Hair Club for Men was cookie cut.
So
And,
cookie cutter and assembly line, like they pretty much took students out of school or out of chain salons that couldn't make it, and they said, do this, take it off, put it on, cut it like this, goodbye. And
they
so
all
they
look the same.
Yeah, and they all look the same. Right.
Today, it's totally different. You got creativity. You're having the barbering is at a whole new level on the men's side, and for the women's side. You know, when you realize this, that 40% of women are over the age of 45 years old have a hair loss problem, some kind of hair loss problem. They gotta find a way to be able to help these women, and creativity is. I mean, you take a person from from thinning hair to having a full head of hair. And the rewards, the tears that they have when they walk out in the lobby, they're in tears because they didn't have a life. And that person might have been working, you know, in a job, and they were using magic markers to cover the bald spots on their head, you know, and they wouldn't tell anybody. It was a secret. It's just awful. And so anyway.
That's good. That's good. So it reminds me, just recently, I'm trying to teach my son how to teach. And so I've got, you can't see it here, but this is a studio I'm in, and there's 2 cameras over here. So I set them up, and I had a guy that wanted hair replacement, couldn't afford it. And I said, hey, if we can use some footage, we'll do it for free. And he's like, oh, really? He was driving in 4 hours from Lafayette, Lake Charles. And so he had to stay the night in a hotel, and he was just so excited. He didn't care. So Brennan is nervous, and he said, I don't know what to do. I said, Brennan, they're just cameras. We can trash the footage if it doesn't work. This is just for you to practice, just to see if it'll work. So we film, I don't know, it's about an hour and a half of footage. I send it all to Eddie. Eddie doesn't do hair replacement. All of a sudden, Eddie's calling me at night when he never calls me. He's at dinner with the friends and family. Hey, listen, I was trying to edit that footage today. My father-in-law is asking, it doesn't have hair, and I'm telling him I can put hair in his head. I said, Eddie, you're supposed to be editing the footage for marketing. Are you telling me you're getting excited and want to get into hair replacement? He goes, yeah. He looks so good. He looks so different. He's so excited about hair replacement since he's watching the footage that, it's been about 2 months and he still hasn't finished editing that footage.
I can't get through the footage without staring in awe of this transformation. I'm telling you, it's insane. It's insane. I don't know what it is about that specific footage, and I don't know what it is. It's the camera angles. I think it's the camera angles.
Maybe we don't need to edit it. If it worked that good on Eddie, maybe we just put it on YouTube and not edit it at all.
I don't know, man. I'm telling you, it's absolutely phenomenal. You know what it is, Bernard? I haven't gotten that excited about watching a video since it reminds me, okay, how many classrooms, like in here's one thing that I've learned from doing the hair replacement show with you and with both of you.
Any of those thoughts?
Yo, seriously, I get so excited. I'm so excited.
Oh.
There, you at the hair replacement shows, there are private rooms.
Yeah.
And there's breakout rooms.
Yeah.
At regular hair shows, there is classrooms as well, right? But the classrooms at hair shows are kind of like, I guess I'm going to go to that classroom. I think they're underutilized and underappreciated at hair shows. But what I noticed at the hair replacement shows,
they were very serious.
They're very serious. And there's a line. There was a waiting line. Like, when are you guys opening this door? When does class start? And I'm like, I've never seen a waiting line, wrapped around the corner.
The American hair loss. Yeah, I think part of that was accidental. I think they didn't give enough break and cleanup time in between the rooms, so people were showing up for the next class, but the last one was running a little late. So
I don't know. Everybody was awake. Everybody was sober. Everybody was excited to go to class. Okay, those are three things you wish you could see at a hair show.
What were you saying, Jay?
We had a class in Charlotte, and people could. I tried to go in the room.
Oh, that's right.
And Kim was presenting our national sales manager with a guy named Lance, and it was like, I couldn't even find a place to sit.
It was standing room only.
It was about a special item for hair replacement for women that made the hair look like it grew out of your scalp, and people were just clamoring to be able to see what's called Chevaux. It was called Chevaux Direct.
Chevaux Direct, right. And the reason why it started off with potentially calling it direct inject, because it's kind of it's more describing how the hair is put in. And Chevaux Direct was a little fancier term to describe the product, but it's a direct inject technique where the hair, if you know about hair replacement or wig making or hair replacement making, they usually are knotting the hair to a base. And so you've got hair normal and then hair flopped over upside down a little bit. They call it the return hairs, like the mustache hairs and extensions. And to direct inject, you have no knotting and you have no return hairs. So it's truly can be Remy hair. It can look like it's really natural to scalp. It is an incredible technique, but we'll talk about that probably in another video one day. Jay, what's your favorite hair show? Do you have a favorite one?
Well, my one that I remember so much so was we did a show in Las Vegas many years ago, and we had brought an old friend of mine. He works in Germany now, and runs hair replacement in Germany. Anyway, we had gone to this show in Las Vegas, and it was the first time that we decided to bring hair replacement that I can remember, where we didn't just show a hair system or whatever. This is back, I would say at least maybe 20 years ago. Well, at any rate, we have our stage set up not too far away from Bedhead, and Bedhead was doing shows on a stage, and they had these fake
wild performances draw a big
oh my gosh, they're jumping on beds and they're going wild, and the music is so loud you can't even hear yourself think, right? So anyway, my job was to go out into the audience and bring and get people who had thinning hair and try to get them to let us put hair on their heads. Literally, it was a shock. So we'd get them on the stage, and they'd say, yeah, we want to try it. And they're nervous, they're sweating at the palms, right? And so my friend Renee, as he starts doing the hair replacement, I remember at one point during this show in Las Vegas, we had at least 100 people around a small booth. And I'm standing in the back, and there's this guy who I'm standing next to, and he's got no hair at all, totally bald. And I said to him, so what do you think of this process? And he goes, he says, it's amazing. It's really interesting. I said, are you a hairstylist? He goes, no. He said, I'm the guy that brought the Helsinki program to the world.
Which is like a hair growth product, and this guy's completely bald.
Yeah, he was bringing hair growth product. And I'm thinking, well, then I kind of jokingly said to him, I said, well, I see it worked for you. And he had no hair at all. Yeah. Of course, I don't know if you know the story, but Helsinki, it turned out to be not really a good product, and it didn't work. But anyway, the interest level it astounded me, of the interest level and the people that were really interested in it, and it was a mystery to them how we could do this. And Renee was great.
Did you guys hide any of the technique at all?
We did exactly what we do today. I remember a couple years
Y'all
ago.
shaved heads, so y'all shaved off
We
that
would
little
actually
bit of
have
hair.
to remove the hair, and then we did a full head bond on
Oh
the guy. Yeah, we
wow,
actually
wow.
removed the hair. Yeah,
I know we don't like to say the word shave, but that's what people see. They're
yeah.
like, they're shaving his head because we do. We remove that little bit of hair that's on top,
Yep.
which is typically a big barrier to getting somebody
Yeah,
to do
because
this.
vellus hair, it's not really growing, and it's a pain in the butt to most men, and they try to figure out what to do with it anyway. So we fix it. But I remember one time I had a friend of mine who did a commercial, and he literally showed removing the vellus hair and actually putting on, giving them a whole new head of hair. And I brought it to my father, who is one of the veterans in the industry. And I remember bringing him to, I was showing him on my phone, and I'm sitting on my phone. He's looking at the commercial. It was a commercial not for television, but for the internet. For their internet site, showing him the process. And he literally had a bird.
He freaked out.
He says, "You can't do that. You can't do that." And I'm going, let me tell you, it's not only doing it, it's doing it. Men today are looking for you. And just going to that show when I was in Vegas showed me that they're looking for someone to do something about their hair loss. They just don't know where to go. And they want to go to a place where they really could trust somebody who is like their stylist. Just like a guy when he sits in a bar, he goes to see his bartender. He wants to see his stylist. You know?
Right. They don't want to go to that hair replacement place that looks like a doctor's office, seems a little cold. They want to go to a salon where their stylist has learned how to do this and has more modern styling techniques. So my favorite hair show, sad to say, does not exist anymore. And you know what? I didn't know it when I went. I went to go check out the premier Birmingham hair show just a few months ago, last year. I went to go check it out to see if it's something I'd bring my product to next year, maybe. And I'm in the middle of the first day, and some stylist says, "Can you believe they're not going to have this show anymore?" I said, "What?" I brought stylists with me. No, nobody told me that when I.
Bernard, is that the very first show you ever went to?
Well, I don't know if it's the first.
Why does that sound familiar?
I think it is, but it is definitely where I met the owner or the distributor for She Hair. Okay. And it's where I first met and decided to start using She Hair. And then the next show I went to was New York, bought in and started becoming a distributor and a teacher of hair extensions. So at the time I was using
I remember meeting you, Bernard, at a show. You were on stage. You were actually demonstrating. I don't remember which show it was. It was either Orlando maybe or it was.
So at that first premiere show, I was just going as a stylist. But when I went to New York, they put me on stage immediately. And I had never been on stage before. I was scared to death. I jumped up there and they said, "You don't have to talk. We just need a model done." One of our extensionists went home sick. We need 4, 1 on each corner. And we have 3 girls and we had a guy. We'd like a guy to do hair on the corner. So I just did it. They said, "You don't have to talk." Well, I didn't think I had the answers, but people started gathering around. And we were right across from Farouk, who also would draw a huge crowd. And we were on a corner, and then across that corner, it was a big aisle. And I had 40, 50 people gathered around that corner for 3 days straight, asking me questions. And I was surprised to know I had all the answers. I knew how long the hair lasts. Is it human hair? How long does it take to put in? How long can you wear them? How do you brush them? And as people started asking, I thought, wow, I know all of these answers. Of course I can be here. So they put a little microphone on me for the second day with the little bitty computer speakers. Then somebody invited me to Orlando to go to that big hair show, and I was on the stage there. And then Eddie's boss invited me to Chicago. Then I was in Vegas. So for 2 or 3 years, I was on the stage at every single hair show in the country, and it was a lot of fun, but I did not plan to do that. Still, out of all those gigantic hair shows, Premier Birmingham, probably because it was my first, maybe it was my first love, Eddie. It was small, intimate, and in the evening, they'd have a party in one of the conference rooms. It was a big conference room, but the show was fairly small, so everybody from the show could all fit in one room to party. So when you go to Chicago, they'd say, "Oh, they're going to have the party at 6 different bars on this street." And it was like, you don't know where your friends are going to go. You don't know what place to go. And So it wasn't quite the same as seeing people on stage and people knowing you. Then you go to this party at night, and I mean, so the business didn't end, and people are like, "I saw you too." And so,
Check your microphone. What's going on?
oh, I don't know. Did something happen?
He's just talking so fast that it can't keep up with him.
The microphone can't translate what he's saying, right?
So
You would think he was a New Yorker, not from Louisiana.
just using the computer mic. Is it better?
There we go.
Got sound. I'm just using the computer mic now. Maybe one of these lost battery. I don't know. So, where did I lose you?
Just start all over from the beginning.
No.
No, you were saying where it started cutting out was saying, you're doing these bigger shows and they're having the after parties at like 6 different bars. You don't know where all your friends are going to, but at least over here, because it's a smaller show, it's more intimate. Everybody gets to hang out. There's more.
The same place. And that's pretty much it. So you're seeing the same people in the day and in the evening for 2 days in a row. All day one day, then at the party, then the next day, people are talking like, "Hey, I saw you last night at the party," and they're dancing. And so it was just, I don't know, I like the intimacy of the smaller shows generally than the bigger ones, but there's advantages to all the different situations and size of shows. So hair replacement, Jay, why do we not see hair replacement at more hair shows, do you think? Or Eddie, you want to answer that?
Well, no, I actually have. I want to add on to Bernard's question, Jay, because that's also from a hairdresser's point of view, not a hair replacement specialist. There is only 3 or 4 shows that are the big shows that everybody thinks about going to: Orlando, New York, Vegas, Chicago.
Yeah, and then there's a few small ones.
And then there's a few small ones. And those few small ones are, if I'm around that weekend, I'll go. If it's within, driving distance, maybe I'll go check it out. But that's everybody brushes it off like whatever. Nobody really pays attention to it.
Let's mention this real quick. Jay works for John Renault, the largest wig manufacturer and distributor of wigs, probably in the world, but definitely in this country, and hair replacement. And Jay has worked for, he's not going to say this because his bosses wouldn't like it, but I'm going to say that 30 years ago when I got involved in hair replacement, Jay and I were much younger. He was my first hair replacement rep when I was like in my first year or two getting into hair replacement. And through the 30 years, Jay has worked for 3 of the largest hair manufacturers for hair replacement and owned his own hair replacement studio for a couple of years in the middle there sometime. So with Jay not being a stylist, but being on the distributor side and owning a business, he has a very unique, full knowledge of the hair replacement business and only missing the smallest amount of like maybe how to do hair. Although there's a story one time where a consultation walked in with a stack of cash and said, "I want hair and I want it now." And he cut a hair system in on him with no training ever. Isn't that true?
Amazing what you can do with a pair of 4420s.
That's thinning shears. He used a pair of texturizing thinning shears and just kept cutting until that thing looked like it blended. He said, "I didn't want to say no when that guy put the cash on the desk." He's like, "He wants hair now."
Hey, cash is king. You don't argue cash.
So why aren't we seeing more hair replacement at hair shows? Have you got an answer for that?
I mean, I can tell you. I believe I know why. I think it's for many years hair replacement was taboo, and people were afraid of it. And I can tell you that in the last probably 10 years, that's changed a lot. Yeah. For instance, when a man did something about his hair loss, they were terrified. You know what I mean? It was not even, and they didn't want to, so they would go to a hair replacement studio and they would find a place. And then, and I've owned hair replacement studio. I grew up in one as a kid.
Oh, that's right.
And they wouldn't want, if I would see a customer on the street, they acted like they didn't know me. But today, I'm not even kidding at all.
That's funny.
And so today is a different market. The clients of today are actually looking for a solution. They're willing to, actually do something about it. Back then, they wanted a magical pill that magically grew your hair in. But when you had to cut it in, that was a second sale. You know what I mean? Because suddenly you had to get the guy through the process, and he's like, ah, you know. And I mean, hence that's where how the hair replacement industry got commercialized. That was Hair Club for Men. But a man doesn't want to. He hates being bald, and really what he wants is his own hair back. And they'll do anything. That's why you got Hims, you got Keeps, you got Rogaine, you got all these things out there that are making millions of dollars on giving enhancing vassal hair.
Lotions and potions.
Lotions and potions. I mean, Dr. Bonner's is probably still selling them out of the mid out in West, driving around with a horse and buggy saying he's got the magic elixir for growing your hair back,
That was a great ad. I seen that ad. That is a great ad. Have you seen that ad, Bernard?
I have not. I'm sure it would still sell because people still will buy Hope.
Yeah, they'll still buy Hope in a bottle. But today, men are more educated. They're coming into studios. They're seeing these videos on YouTube where they're actually replacing the hair and giving them a full head of hair, and they're coming and saying, I want this. And my mission is to be able to bring that to there's 211 markets in the United States. We're only covering a very small portion of those markets. And I would like to see that grow. And I think that the market is right for it. And men today are really willing to do something about their hair loss. That's my personal mission,
Right.
And I believe that I mean, Bernard and I, for a couple of years, we were doing education throughout the country. And I think in 1 year we trained well over 100 people.
Definitely.
And one thing that John Renault has is the support system in place to be able to handle that. We have 13 men's hair systems for different types of hair loss and different things you got going through for men. And women's it's unlimited what we could do. So that's why I'm with John Renault.
I did a couple of days of filming with 4 live models here in this studio for John Renault. And, I was using 2 or 3 of my favorite systems. And I said, okay, I'm getting ready to do this training. They want me to do a teaching that they could sell in-house and put it on the John Renault's site, educational site. And she sends me this brochure and at least 1 or 2 of each of the systems they have in multiple colors. And I call back and I say, Emily, you have 13 men's hair systems? She goes, yeah, yes. I said, well, we need to market this. I thought there was only 3 or 4. I had no idea you have 13 different men's hair replacements. And I think there's probably 1 or 2 more now, but 13 different choices between skin, lace, hybrid, where perimeter bond. There's a lot of choices. And something John Renault has that I was super excited about is a couple of the systems have a Euro hair option. Where when you
European hair.
Right. So Eddie's like, what does that mean? Do you know what that means, Eddie?
I'm about to ask. Well, it's got to be it's got to be better.
Well,
it doesn't come from the belly of a inside joke.
No, it is. It is an inside joke, but it's all about yak. The animal, the yak, is not in America, but some hair comes from a yak, and people will use yak hair for different reasons, and that's what the joke was about. But oh my God, I totally forgot what I was going to talk about now.
No, the European. What's the difference of European hair, other than it comes off a European person?
Yeah, so when you get hair replacement, hair extensions, you can get different hair from different ethnicities, different cultures, different parts of the world. And for the most part, most companies are trying to match the European descendant, which is not all European in America. So a little wavy, not too fine, not too coarse. But the downside is people will go a little on the Chinese version of hair, which ends up being a little coarser, a little drier, doesn't match most of the Americans' hair. But when you go European, in some cases, I'm going to tell you the good and the bad of it. And the bad is just a perceived bad. European hair can be a little straighter, a little finer, a little softer, and sometimes fall a little flatter. For somebody like me, European hair would not be the option. My hair's a little thicker and coarser. But on a lot of men, they have a finer, smoother, a little flatter, not straight, but closer to straight, slight wave, not much wave. And so a European hair option it just feels so slick and smooth and nicer, but a little less wave and a little flatter. But it's a nicer hair that generally lasts a little longer as far as hair quality. Because it's smoother, you brush through it faster and easier. And you can custom order that in almost anything you want, but it'll take 2 or 3 months or 6 months to come in. Whereas John Renault stocks 2 systems, one in all skin, one in all lace, in a European version that you can order immediately.
Is it similar to the difference between hair extensions? How like wefts and strands, you have like European hair versus Asian or Indian hair and things like that?
It is.
Okay, so okay.
I don't want to go too deep into that.
No, I got you. So now here's another question. So with hair shows coming up, because for a while, here's something, a personal observation of mine. The smaller hair shows have always seemed to be more consistently focused on education and education driven rather than sales driven, whereas the larger shows just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and there was a need to start selling more and more because the show got bigger and bigger. Everything started getting more expensive. The booth space, the union fees, all blah 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 blah. So the education started taking a back seat, and the showmanship and the loudspeakers and the dancers and the performers, everybody was trying to one up each other. And hairdressers, the attendees, we started saying, you know what, this sucks. And even me, myself, I started not liking performing on stage because I was having to one up myself every show. Like there was one show I did, I had literally had to use a leaf blower as a blow dryer, and I had to use hedge clippers as shears. Like it was insane.
Draw a crowd or what?
No, like
what?
It was the whole thing after 9/11. I had to do a show in New York. So I was on the first, I was on the first flight from Chicago going to New York right after 9/11. And security was like through the roof. We couldn't take anything on the plane. So the distributor was supposed to have stuff ready for us. And when we got there, the distributor had nothing ready for us.
Oh my goodness.
So we saw a couple of landscaper outside. We're like, yo, if I give you $20, can I borrow your leaf blower? He's like, yeah, sure. $20. I'm like, hey, for another $20, can I borrow those hedge clippers? Like, and we're sitting in the back with a rock. You can appreciate this, but I'm sitting there with a stone, just a rock I picked out of the dirt, and I'm trying to sharp the clipper, and I'm telling the assistant, just hold on to this hair on the model. It's a live model. I'm like, just hold on to this hair, and whatever you do, do not move. She goes, what do you do? I'm going to come running at you, and I'm going to slam this thing as hard as I can, and it should, theoretically, clip this hair. She goes, what if you miss and you chop my arm? I go, that's why, don't move. So imagine
you'll lose a finger.
This young girl standing there like this, holding this other young girl's ponytail up in the air, and here's me like a raging bull come running across the stage, thinking, I hope this freaking works. I hope this freaking works. Because dull shear, the hair will bend inside and it would just, I don't know, snap her neck or something. I don't know.
No, it's not gonna, but it might not cut the hair. That's
I'm just saying, like that was the thought. So we chopped the hair, 4 ponytails, chop all the hair.
Sounds like a great show.
It was an amazing show. It was a crap haircut, but it was an amazing show. Then I'm sitting there going, vroom, vroom. I can't, the choke. And I'm sitting there going like this with the freaking gasoline leaf blower, gasoline spilling everywhere. It stinks. Everybody's getting a headache. But the crowd.
You're not supposed to run those inside.
No. Well, and upside down either. No. But that's what the shows got turned into.
Market anyway, if that's what I'm thinking of.
Well, that's what I hated about, you know what? I know COVID, there was a lot of bad that came with COVID, but some good came with COVID also. It was like the great reset, in my opinion. The hair shows lost a lot of business. So they were, like you said, they used to be a lot more, they kind of start off as education when they're smaller. And as they get bigger, they turn more into shit shows like that and flea markets. And
yes, that's the problem.
Now that they're all forced to be small again, I think people are focusing on what needs to be focused on, education again. I don't think hairdressers really want to go to shows to find the deals and the discounts and save a few dollars. They think they do, but really they want to learn to be better. They want to go back to the salon a better stylist with more knowledge, more education, so they can charge more if they're doing it correctly. Problem is, it just got going down a wrong path. So I love the new reset. And a lot of the stylists that weren't serious about the business got out. A lot of the companies that weren't serious about the business have gotten out. So I think we have a lot of serious hairdressers, more serious companies that were able to go through the test of dropping off some. And it's just I don't know, better experience. The last couple of shows I went to over the last year and a half have been really nice.
Yeah. I mean, I went with you this past year, and we both, you and Eddie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
I thought that was a fantastic show. It was inspiring. It got people getting thinking out of the box, you know, which is where you gotta challenge people and get people thinking out of the box. That's what a show does. Obviously, the shows that I go to are going to have hair replacement at it. So hair replacement pushes you out of the box significantly. Sure.
Right.
You know, but it also gives you the ability to build a business that instead of doing, you know, learning. I know Bernard hates it when I say earning a living in 3-foot space. He hates that when
I'll be ending the video right now.
You could turn you could turn a job into a business is really what I'm trying to say.
Right. I don't hate it necessarily. I like what you mean by that, but Jay was coming into these meetings where we were turning stylists into hair replacement technicians. They're going from being really good at hair to something they don't know anything about, and they're really scared, and they want to start doing hair replacement to make more money. And he's telling them that you can't make money in a 3-foot space. And they're I said, I think you're losing them. I don't think they understand that you're saying the end of the story before you give them the whole story. Basically, what he's saying is there's a path, and you don't want to stay in that 3-foot space forever. You want to grow out of it somehow, and you want to go from kind of what we focus on, the profitable stylist. You want to go from being a stylist to now doing more profitable services, hair replacement, hair extensions being a couple of big ones, and then getting your business to a point that it could be sold, worked through assistants, and a kind of business that you can work on instead of in. So you got to get to the point where you're teaching and training and marketing and selling and putting those clients in somebody else's chair, because now you're passing on the knowledge, and you're also not hurting here in the shoulders, in the neck, going to the chiropractor. So I agree, you don't want your whole life to be 3-foot by 3-foot, but it definitely starts there.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a great book out there. It's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, it's about being a really good technical person and turning it into being a good business person with the skills, you know. So
that's awesome. You know, and that's what I'm excited about ABS Chicago coming up in April, because we're going to be focusing on the education. We have a private room for the entire weekend that's just for our distributorship, Hair's the Bling. And we're all 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we're going to be doing hair color education, hair extensions, keratin smoothing, and hair loss. And it's just the whole 3 days is just going to be the same classroom, nothing but education nonstop. And then at the booth, we're actually going to be positioning the booth in such a way where we're going to be able to have the general audience come over to our booth and be able to do hands-on, and experience all aspects of everything that we provide. And I'm really, really inspired about this. I'm super excited about this. And you're going to be with me, Bernard. You're coming up to that one.
I didn't even know all of those details. You should come, Jay.
Come hang out. Come hang out. 2201, booth 2201 at ABS.
We got another meeting in a minute and a half. We got to run, guys.
Yeah.
So any closing thoughts, Bernard?
No.
Jay, wrap it up for us, Jay. Bernard doesn't help us.
Hey, Jay, so I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh, Bernard. I'm not prepared.
Can I do a commercial?
Yes.
Do a commercial.
Do a commercial.
I would encourage you to call John Renault or to go to johnrenault.com. And one of the things you're going to find there is something called Education on Demand. And guess what? It's Bernard. Hair replacement.
I'm glad I
And
said.
find out how you could learn to become a profitable stylist with hair replacement.
That's
All right?
awesome. That's awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll catch y'all next week. Let us know in the comments what shows have you guys been to in the past, and what shows are you guys looking forward to, in the future, and what
Yes.
shows are in your guys' area that we may not
Just
be
don't know
familiar
about.
with. Yeah.
Put it in the comments. Bye,
Thank you.
guys.